How you doing today? My name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're taking a look finally at the Penguin, the QSP Penguin Mini. Yeah, it's been out for over a year. A lot of you guys know a lot about it. I've done a video where I did sort of a not full review, but a sort of more than just an overview of the Mini and the XL version together in the same video. Oh, I had the original one in that video as well. So if you want to see the video, it's got all those three sizes. I still don't have my hands on the slip joint version. I am planning on getting that. It might take a while. Things are going slow, really slow right here. Part of it is, I'm busy. Here's a little update. My son, my oldest son, helped me put in the floor in the bathroom renovation that we're doing. And I've got at least a little bit of the drywall up. We took out the backsplash that the previous owners put in. We're putting in, a different vanity and all kinds of stuff. And we're putting in one of those shower surround units. That's a little update of what's going on with that. And it's going slow, but it's going. And now we're going to take a look at this little guy. I've got the natural G10 or the Jade G10 version right here. And let's talk about it. Come on down. Oh, just as we come down, the video might look a little dark. My light, I've had this thing for almost 6 years now, a little over 5 years. And, the camera, goes through here, points down. I have it up like this, points down. This puts lots of light straight down onto the knives. So this video is not going to have this. I'm just going to use, what am I going to use? Oh, it's sitting right in front of me. Little extra light, just a little bit extra light from this. And I've got to order one of these. Now, without any further ado, let's take a look at this knife. Keep watching. Okay, so yeah, the Mini is just the little guy. I'm going to start off with a tiny bit of a size comparison. This is the standard Penguin, the original Penguin. And just in case you didn't see that video where I compared the three of them, there you go. That's the size difference. This is just the tiniest bit over 3 inches in blade length. And this guy is a bit less. We're going to do all the specs later on in the video. Going to do a teardown. All that stuff is going to be covered. What kind of steel does this Mini, at least the base version of the Mini, come with? 14C28N. Rockwell on this is usually around 60, give or take a tiny bit. And you've got G10. You can also get micarta. You can get shredded carbon fiber. You can get satin finish like this one has. You can get it in a black wash, so it's like a black titanium coating and then stonewash finish on the black. It looks really, really nice. And that's the standard ways that it comes. There are exclusive versions out there, and we're not going to talk about those in this video, just the standard versions. Let's go over the price of this thing. At White Mountain Knives, $49.50, just like at most stores. QSP has got pretty standard pricing, but you can save 10% at White Mountain Knives with coupon code CCE. That makes it $44.55 US for this knife. For the higher handle versions, $56.35. So after the 10% discount, $50.71 US. In Canada, you can get every of the standard variations of this at Blades Canada, $64.99 Canadian, which after the exchange rate is pretty close to the base price that you can get it in the United States, before that discount, of course. The higher end versions, $72.99, 73 Canadian dollars for this knife. So yeah, the price is not bad in Canada. So I definitely recommend buying knives in Canada, folding knives in Canada if you are in Canada. I didn't used to do that, but it's getting harder and harder and harder to get folding knives into Canada. Let's talk about the options or the features of this. We've got ceramic ball bearings in here. We've got thumb stud for deployment. My door just rang. Well, that's a first. There's a veterinary hospital, more of a clinic. I don't think they do overnight stuff for pets. But anyways, there's a veterinarian, about 150 yards from our house. And it was one of the techs from there They had been helping a cat, and apparently it was a stray cat, and it took off, and it ran into my shed in my backyard, my wood shed. I've got a little wood shed where I've got wood stored for, you know, campfires and stuff in the backyard and things. So they wanted to know if they were allowed to go into that wood shed to try to rescue this cat, because it was a nursing cat, and so it probably has kittens, and so they want to rescue those from my back shed. So of course I said they could go in there and do whatever they needed to do, and I can just sit here and talk about knives instead. What was I talking about before we got interrupted? Ceramic ball bearings, thumb stud deployment, right and left thumb studs. Of course, the left thumb stud's a little harder to get at, especially when you got the pocket clip on the side, but still works just fine if you're left-handed. You can move the pocket clip to the other side. There's a nice little hole there for it, and that works just fine. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And of course, right-handed, you've got even more room because you've got this cutaway here for the lock release. So that's nice. Decent amount of jimping. Of course, the proverbial Jake would like to have more jimping. You've got a flat area here that does work if you want to sneak up. So you can safely sneak up on your blade like this and use it that way. And for that reason, I'd like to have a little more jimping up there, but that's me. Other people, you know, you might want something else. The jimping's not too aggressive, but it's aggressive enough to be, you know, decent. So I'm happy with that. Especially though, when you've got a smaller knife, I like the fact if you sneak up this way, then my hand just barely gets some grip on the pinky as well if I do that. And, you know, that's a good thing. So there you go. Your mileage may vary because your hands are probably a different size than mine. Mine are just barely in the extra large range. So there you go. If you've got large hands, chances are you can do a 4-finger grip if you move forward or smaller. Oh, yeah. T6 screw heads on the thumb studs, so they are removable if you need to. Now, I did measure the grind angles on this, and the thumb studs didn't get in the way for that, so I should be able to sharpen them without the thumb studs getting in the way, but if you needed to, you could take those off. We've got a tiny sharpener's tool. It's not quite big enough. I wish the sharpener's tool was a little bit bigger. We've got the classic sheep's foot style blade. So there's that. The body screws back here, well, they are also T6. I don't prefer T6 body screws, especially when they're rounded button screws. At least these don't sink fully. They're just slightly proud of the surface of the G10. Let's take a look at these screws. Is this my T6 or my T8? This is my T6. So let's see how much play these screw heads have. Very little. Almost no play at all in those screw heads. Very nice. Let's check these. Tiny bit more play in the screw heads for the pocket clip, and for the thumb stud, very nice and snug. It doesn't want to have a lot of play in there, so very well done. And of course their T8, you know, excellent. Fits in there with decent depth, almost no play at all, just the way I like it. Some more features. It's the basic penguin shape, the same penguin open hole back here. And the pocket clip, you know, just like the original, it's got that open area. I really do wish they would have somehow made it so they could have a little steel insert in there. Because some people, they take their screwdrivers and they over tighten these screws that are not being used to hold a pocket clip. And you can break and crack, you know, the G10 or whatever handle material you have, micarta or shredded carbon fiber, whatever, you can crack it. So I really wish there was a nice little spacer that they would have given with it to put in there. Yeah, it might be tricky to get it back out if they make it just come flush here. So, you know, I can see why they might not have done that, or why they might. Sorry, I keep going way over there. I'll try to pay attention to this over here. But I just wish there was something a little bit in there, but it's okay. At least they included the 2 extra screws, so you can have none of these holes exposed. So I like that. That's a good thing. And of course, they did that originally as well, so it's not new to this. There's your circle with the triangle. That's a QSP logo right there. Other than that, the badging is super tiny. Up here on the flat, it says QSP right up there, but it's nice. It's not super dark. It's gray. And right there's the steel type. Now that I wish maybe would have been back here on the ricasso instead of across the top, but at least it's nice and small. Not a problem. I'm quite happy with that. Functionality of the pocket clip, well, it's pretty much the same pocket clip as the original. The original's got it slightly rounded here, and this is a little bit more squared off right at that edge. It's still a bit curved, but functionally it's the same pocket clip. Let's put it into a pocket here. There you go. Nicely done. The knife hides really nicely, and there you go. I'm happy with the pocket clip. The smoothness of the action, mine is a little bit rough, and it's because this lock bar, I think it's got too much pressure going in. When you go to close it, I think maybe the detent hole and stuff, it's just, well, the detent's a little bit too strong. Look at this. For a small knife like this, it's holding it too tightly. For deploying it, you know, you get it just right and it flies open once you've overcome that pressure, so that's good. But right now, while the lock bar arm is just pushing on the side of the blade, it's not really smooth on the action at all. It's just, it stops wherever you stop. It's pushing a little bit too hard. So I'll probably adjust that when I do the teardown. So there's that. Open pillar construction. We've got the hourglass shaped pins back there, you know, just like the original one had. So it's basically just a mini version of the original, and I like it. Now, if you are still wondering if a small knife is worth it, and I've said this on many videos, most people use the first 1.5 or 2 inches from the tip, or when they're cutting, they're using the 1.5 to 2 inches from the heel of the blade to do most of their cutting in an EDC scenario. I'm not talking every possible scenario to use a knife. In an EDC scenario, that's what most people use. And this thing right here is about 2 1/3 inches. So, well, not a third, more like, well, I'll give you the exact measurements in a minute, but it's over 2 inches of cutting edge. And that's more than enough for most of what people do with an EDC knife. All right, let's tear this thing apart and I'll show you how it's constructed. Now, I apologize if you can hear my furnace fan too much. Yeah, we're having cold weather here. It's right around the freezing point, just a little bit above. We had like 4 inches of snow last week, and it's not all melted yet. Yeah, there's dirt in here because I use these knives. I've been testing on it and using it quite a bit, so there's quite a bit of schmutz on there, and you can see there, as I wipe that off, there's a little bit of residue, and that's another sign. Let me see. I can't feel it with my finger where the detent ball has been rubbing, which is good. If I could feel that with my finger, then this blade would be way too soft. But no, I can't feel with my finger that line there, but I can see that there's a little bit more wear. That line showing up a little bit too distinctly for the amount that I've used it. And when I clean this off, yeah, that detent bar, that's got a lot of tension on it. It's pushing too hard. But one good thing about how they constructed this, you don't have to take the pocket clip off to take it apart. But I'm going to need to take the pocket clip off because I'm going to do my fix, my detent fix. I've got a whole video series, 3 videos on how to fix detent issues. And the issue that I'm calling this thing is the detent is too strong. There's too much pressure on this lock bar, pushing the detent ball too hard over that way. But let's take a look at this. Here's the thumb stud. We can take it out now. So there's a milled out section where the thumb stud goes in, a thumb stud pocket clip. I've been saying thumb stud and pocket clip, mixing them up for years. If you go see some of my old videos, and if you do, prepared for lower quality videos, not just the production quality, but the reviewer quality is lower on my old videos as well. Of course, just like everybody else, or like everybody else wants to do, that you want to do better over time and become a better at your job. And so I'm trying to become a better reviewer all the time. So, but you'll hear the same thing. Thumb studs and pocket clips. they're interchangeable in my brain for some reason. And yeah, but nice studs, nice pocket clip. Here's your ceramic ball bearings. Those are quite nice. They're pretty small. Let me see, there's 9 of them in there. Not bad. There's stop pin right there. And let's take this guy out. There is a D-shaped pivot pin in here, and it sits in there. It's in there tight. Let me see if I can push that out with something. Got a piece of plastic right here. There we go. Oh, yeah, that's in there tight and doesn't want to come out. But now you can clearly see, and I'll take a good close-up picture of that. There's definitely a D-shaped hole and the D-shaped pin, and that sits in there. No spinny when you don't want it to spinny. Quite nice. These screws, hopefully you can see these really well. They're a good quality screw. So that's how it's made. Quite nice. I'm going to clean it up, adjust this, and then we'll talk about the adjustment, and then we'll do the sizes. Got it back together again, and yes, I've got the lock bar arm with a little less pressure. Still works great. Actually, it feels like it opens even better. But I also did lubricate it with my Gunny Glide, which is my preferred lubrication. The alignment, hopefully I can get a decent picture of that. It's just slightly off to the pocket clip side. It was a little bit better centered before, and I think that's because there was more lock bar pressure pushing over on it. Although this is still totally acceptable. I don't mind that it's just slightly off center at all. Lockup, got lots of lockup in there. It's got lots of room to wear over. Yeah, not bad at all. Quite like that. Lots of room to get in there and release that lock. Let's do the sizes now. Dimensions and stuff. The weight of this knife. This one's 81 grams, 2.9 ounces. A little bit of weight for its size, sure. I don't mind. The factory sharpness, about 200 bests on my testing, which is not quite as sharp as the average knife that I review. It's not too bad on that account. So I noticed the light that I'm using above had burned, the battery had died on it, so I put a battery pack on it, so hopefully it'll stay on now. I was talking about I did the weight and I did the sharpness. The cutting edge length is 55 millimeters, 2.17 inches. From the tip to the closest spot on the handle in a straight line is 58.8 millimeters, 3.32 inches. So that's the 2 1/3 that I was talking about before. The thickness of this blade stock, 2.9 millimeters, 0.114, a little bit, it's between 1/10 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch, basically. The blade depth this way, it's widest right over here, 22.7 millimeters, 0.894 of an inch. The thickness behind the grind, so that's behind the edge grind, right where that edge grind meets the main grinded bevel, 0.55 millimeters, 21.5 thousandths of an inch. That's thicker than I prefer it to be. And the grind angles. Well, the grind angles, the average along the length on either side is 22.6 degrees. So that's just a little bit over a 45-degree angle inclusive. That's a little too blunt. I wish it was less. On this side, it started at 23.6 degrees, ended at 21.6, so 2 degrees of change. On this side, it started at 23.5 degrees, ended at 21.7 degrees. That's 1.8 degrees of change. So it's sharpened pretty much average for the industry standards. For a little knife like this, for a little EDC knife, 14C28N, I'd want this thing to be like 18 thou thick there or less, and the grind angle to be 18 degrees per side, maybe a tiny bit less. So it's just not quite as nice for cutting straight out of the box as I'd hope it to be, but that doesn't mean yours are going to have the same angles. It'll probably have pretty much the same thickness behind the grind, but the grind angles, they don't just have one guy robotically sharpening every single one exactly the same way. They've got a number of people doing the sharpening, and from knife to knife, the angles are going to vary somewhat. But the rest of the dimensions are pretty stable throughout. The handle length, that is 82.7 millimeters, 3.26 inches. The grip area, and this time I measured, right around where my thumbnail is right there, to where my thumbnail is here. It's around 6.5 centimeters, about 2.5 inches. The thickness of the handle scales, not on any of the screws or anything, on the G10, 11.9 millimeters, 0.468 of an inch, so nice. The handle depth within the grip area, so I'm not counting this spot here, within the grip area, it's widest right in the middle, 20.8 millimeters, 0.819 of an inch. When the knife is closed, the widest point is just before, the transition down towards the tip. So right there, 31.6 millimeters, 1.24 inches, and the total length of this knife is right around 141 millimeters, 5.55 inches. So there you go. Nice, small knife. And yeah, I like the action better now. Pretty good. What do I think of this knife? Overall, I like it. I like it quite a lot. It's not big and scary, yet it's very usable, very user-friendly, very strong tip, if you need to do some tip cutting, good, decent straight edge for doing some slicing and cutting. Yeah, it's a good knife. It's the QSP Penguin Mini. Do you have one? Let me know in the comments down below what you think of yours. Thank you so much for watching. Huge shout out of thanks to my financial supporters. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.